Business meeting of 2017. Before we get started, I would like to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas and a very happy and healthy New Year. And if we could, please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll get right into the meeting agenda by starting with our superintendent's report with our superintendent of schools, Mr. Michael Brooks.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Welcome, everyone. I also share those same remarks. Welcome to winter. Today's the first day of winter. Certainly, it's a great day tomorrow because it's a minute longer, which is a very nice thing. As the days get longer, the lights start to, or the nights get shorter, which is a wonderful thing. But really, this has been such a special season. I've spent a good amount of time in the schools, especially this week, and boy, there's a lot of excitement going on with just what's going on in the season, just finishing Hanukkah, coming into the Christmas time now, and certainly the New Year. There's an awful lot of great things as we close out 2017, and very excited about what's coming for 2018. Just to give you a little taste of it, too, Director of Curriculum Instruction, Robin Heck, myself, and our high school principal have been spending some time with local college officials at the president's and associate president's levels. And we continued that this week when we went out to SUNY Ulster and met with the college president out in Stone Ridge, is it? The town out there, I believe? Yes. Really a great time speaking with him about the perspective of SUNY Ulster and where their growth opportunities are for program, and certainly where we can partner more and more with SUNY Ulster. We know that we have an awful lot of course offerings right now with SUNY Ulster. Certainly we also have connections with Marist. We also have connections with SUNY Albany, and we also have connections with Dutchess, correct? So we're looking to see how we can expand our relationship with SUNY Ulster. We are in the midst of working on expanding that relationship to establish a campus for SUNY Ulster down here in the southeastern portion of Ulster County, which would be in this building. So that's still something that's in process right now, where SUNY Ulster is going to be offering courses down here. So there's really some exciting opportunities that are going to be happening for our kids in Marlborough. So something we're working very hard on and hoping that we can come up with some very innovative and interesting ways to help our kids get more and more of a college experience in their high school years. Really a great thing for us as we move forward. More to come on that. Also for the board, we just received word this week that the Board of Regents has put out their calendar for exams and assessments for the 18-19 school year. So what that means for us is now we can start to establish our calendar for the 18-19 school year. So coming soon, we'll begin talking about what that might look like, probably in the January, at the latest February timeframe. The interesting part about it, because of the way the calendar falls next year, Regents Week is going to conclude on a Wednesday, which is odd. Usually they conclude on a Friday. So rating day would typically be Friday and then graduation Friday night. So we're going to have to look at how that's going to impact us as far as our Regents schedule, exam schedules, and also graduation. So stay tuned. We'll see how that works. Also, at the next meeting, you're going to see on the agenda a contract for the board to approve regarding our Unified Sports Program. Ms. Mealy spoke about the Unified Sports Program at our last meeting, talking about how we're going to be offering a intramural sports program with other schools for a special population of our children, and it's really an exciting opportunity for our kids. That contract with the Special Olympics group will be on the next agenda. And with that, I have nothing else.
Okay. In the absence of our student representative, we will bypass her report, and we will stick with you for our Student of the Month for December.
Fantastic. Let's start at the top and go to the elementary school. Caught you off guard there, didn't I?
Thank you, Mr. Brooks. Good evening, everyone. We're very excited to be here tonight with you, the last board meeting of 2017, very eventful year. And it's my honor to present on behalf of the entire Marlboro Elementary School, our student of the month, Julian Herrera, a second grader in Mrs. Congeli's class. Come on down. Face this way so Mommy can see your picture.
I have to talk on the mic. Okay. Julian is a wonderful student. He's very compassionate. He's very considerate. He's come a long way this year. He's, getting a little bit more independent. And he's a friend to everybody. He helps everybody. He's just a wonderful little guy. And like I said, he's come a long way this year so far, and he's got a lot further to go. And I think he's a little excited. Are you excited? Okay. All right. And he's very handsome. So congratulations, my friend. You're doing a great job. Keep up the good work, okay? All right. We have to take a picture.
How about Mrs. Clinton in the middle school?
Good evening, everyone. Happy holidays. Looking forward to our soon-to-be winter break, and maybe Mother Nature will bring it a little earlier. I don't know. Just right, Claire? Don't you think? Yeah. So Marlboro Middle School is very excited to present our sixth grade student of the month representing Team Marlboro. Not only is Claire Devine a wonderful student, but I also learned recently she's an amazing speller. So she is very talented, and here to talk a little bit more about her are her teachers, Miss Worcester and Mrs. Keene.
Welcome, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here tonight to honor such a very, very special young lady. Claire, according to Hannah, who couldn't be here tonight, we may not be in Disney World, but we're making magic happen tonight. How? Because we're honoring you. So we came up with the top 10 reasons why Claire Devine has been chosen as Team Marlboro's Student of the Month. Reason number 10. Tommy Russ says that if he was stuck on $1 million question on who wants to be a millionaire, Claire would be his phone-a-friend.
Miles thinks Claire's social studies grade point average is hotter than the Sahara Desert.
Reason number 8. Harrison thinks Claire is the best friend anyone could ever have. He says he's always got his back, and she's never, ever ignorant.
Reason number 7. Sal says when it comes to competition, Claire is almost always the one to beat. Reason number 6. Mrs. Recho says that Claire is her go-to girl in science, and when she needs a copy of super neat notes or a second set of eyes in the classroom, Claire is the first she would run to. In science, her fluorescence provides the class with a beacon to understanding.
Reason number 5. Mrs. Smith says that Claire is a true captain on the Captain America math team. Like Captain American, she has very high intelligence. She never backs down from a difficult math challenge, and like Captain America, she runs to protect her teammates whenever they are in trouble by helping them out with their math work. Mrs. Smith thanks you, Claire, for making the math world a better place to be.
Reason number 4. I feel Claire's achievements are greater than the Taj Mahal, greater than the pyramids of Giza, and greater than fertile soil.
Reason number 3. I feel, as Claire's teacher, she is a born teacher. When it comes to mathematics, her insight and understanding to the material, she can put the real Captain America to shame. Claire possesses superhuman capabilities and powers beyond her age. In ELA, she is a master speller and writer. She would have no problem teaching Team Flash a thing or two. Only if pigs could fly, Claire. Only if pigs could fly.
Reason number 2. Mrs. Lipsy thinks that Claire is an all-around student and athlete. Her sweet personality and kindness towards other students and adults is very contagious. Her respect, character, integrity, dedication, leadership, trustworthiness, and great sportsmanship points out the very person she is. She says Claire is a true role model and an athlete that she is so proud to know. She also wanted to recognize that Claire and her teammates, Matthew D'Angelo and Jonathan Russell, came in first place for the 6th grade division of the basketball shooting challenge, and she came in 3rd place for the horse basketball shooting challenge.
Reason number 1. Mrs. Wolf and Mrs. Orlando think Claire is a formidable actress and dancer in the upcoming production of Seussical Jr. Claire's passion for dance and the fine arts speaks for itself. She makes all the bird girls jealous from what we hear. On behalf of all your teachers, we commend you, Claire, on your Student of the Month recommendation and nomination. No one deserves this more than you. We also want to take the opportunity to thank Claire's parents and her grandparents for the amazing job they have done in instilling such admirable traits in Claire. Claire is one of a kind. One day we will see her name in lights. Tonight it's all about Claire and the magic she brings to MMS. Congratulations.
In case you didn't guess, Mr. Lawler, you are next.
I just want to confirm, Mr. Brooks, that the high school would also like a day off from school tomorrow for a snow day. Students met and voted on it earlier. So tonight we have the honor and pleasure of introducing one of our finest students in the school. We have senior Matt Early. Matt is joined, I'm sorry, go ahead. Matt is joined by his mom, Tara, and his grandparents tonight. Matt's an incredible kid. He's going to be introduced by Mr. Ryan Brooks. Matt is one of those students, we've talked about our college and the high school program. Matt is walking out of high school with an entire year of college completed prior to leaving our school. He has an interest in either physics or biomedical engineering or something in between. So he's going to do those amazing things that we need from the STEM fields in the future. So we're just really proud of Matt. I'm going to ask Matt to come on up, and Mr. Brooks, come on up and do your introduction.
Thank you all for coming tonight. It's an honor to be here. Matthew is a remarkable and resilient person. He shows up to phys ed every day with a smile on his face, ready to give max effort and perform to his very best, all while overcoming some of life's toughest challenges. Matthew has also demonstrated great leadership skills by showing incredible support and encouragement for his classmates on a daily basis. It's an honor to present Student of the Month to Matthew Early, a person that is very deserving and a truly admirable.
Just if I could spend a moment kind of recapping, when you hear about what we do here in Marlboro and you hear about the children that we have, and we hear that they're compassionate and they're best friends and they're competitive and they support and encourage classmates, they're handsome, they're master spellers, master writers, they overcome challenges. This is what it is to be a Duke, folks. Thank you so much for being great people, the three of you. Julian and Claire and Matt, thank you for being great people. We really appreciate the role model that you are. Teachers, thank you for nominating them. Moms, dads, families, grandmas, grandpas, aunts, uncles, all of you, thank you for being you too. We appreciate it. So, congratulations.
I also share that sentiment. Congratulations to our students again. And at this time, we'd like to take a brief moment to allow parents to get your kids home.
Despite popular thoughts here, there is school tomorrow. There is school tomorrow.
Other than the presentations, we got a pretty light agenda. Be home reasonably. Oh, great. We're on to old business. That's great. That's great. That'd be great. It's just energizing. It's, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Can't beat that.
So, being in education, what would you like to see change here in Marlboro? Education? There are statements, and everyone has an opportunity to ask one question. And if need, well, I just consider that probably fair to the first person. For our next agenda item, I invite Mr. Patrick Witherow, our business director, and Mr. Larry Cavaza, our facilities director, to present the building condition survey report.
Good evening, everyone. We're going to discuss the building condition survey, which was done by Fellinger Engineering. Our first slide here. Right, left. There we go. Just to explain a little bit as to what a building condition survey is a visual inspection of all occupied school buildings conducted by a school district selected team that includes at least one architect or engineer. At a minimum, the survey assesses the current condition of all program spaces, plus major building and site systems and components. The intent of the survey is to assess these items for evidence of movement, deterioration, structural failure, probable useful life, need for repair, maintenance, or need for replacement. What is the practical value of a building condition survey? The data in a building condition survey assist in ascertaining the future investments required in time, resources, and capital to maintain and/or improve the educational environment, health, safety, energy, efficiency of the school district's buildings and ground assets. I might also add that it's required by New York State law that every 5 years a building condition survey is conducted. The dollar amounts indicated in this are general estimates provided by Fellinger Engineering. These amounts make various assumptions as to labor cost, engineering and architectural fees, construction management fees, etc., and are intended to be solely used as a general budgeting guideline. Actual cost related to identified work can significantly vary from these estimated costs. Before we go into the survey, I just wanted to add that the overall condition of all of our buildings is very good. Our mechanical systems, our structural systems are all in very good shape. There are items that they will mention, but they didn't find anything egregious or outrageous that should cause us any concern in terms of our safety or in terms of immediate planning to spend immediate dollars. What it does is lay out a framework for us so that in the future we can plan out this work and maintain our buildings so that we can maintain our educational spaces. So as you look at this slide, if you see the numbers associated, you might see a 1, a 2, or a 3. Part of the survey, the engineering firm has a format that they have to submit to the state. They're required to submit it in a format that says either they must do, should do, or would like to do. So that's how they have to submit it to the state. So that's why you'll see the items have a number attached to them. That's whether it should be a should do or must do. What Pat and I did was we broke the work out rather than by building into groups. We grouped the work. So the first thing you'll see is paving. Got a number of areas that require some upkeep. Got cracking that occurs in paving, you got breakage that occurs in pavement. So that number reflects what they thought were our issues with paving. The second item, probably, I believe the largest item, if I'm not mistaken, is our roofs. Many of our roofs are either new or have been upgraded, but there are still portions of our buildings that some of our building projects did not get to. So there might be a section of roof at this building, or a section of roof at MES, or a section of roof at the Middle Hope building that are older than some of our other sections. And useful life of a flat roof is about 30 years, and then they do other items in their inspection while they're going through to determine whether that roof is living up to that expectation or not living up to that expectation. And so that is how they identify the areas that they identified and put the number associated with that. Our sidewalks, we've got some work to do at the middle school. Our middle school sidewalks in the front of the building are probably, in terms of sidewalks, just in terms of sidewalks, probably those sidewalks are in our worst condition. Not a huge, major safety concern, because we don't use the front sidewalks, other than if we have a fire drill, we're going out that way, but the front sidewalks aren't, aren't used. Over here at Milton, we had some heaving in the sidewalks out here. We've actually taken care of the issue out here, where there's sections of our sidewalks, one's lower, one higher. We actually had a company come in last year, I think so. They took care of the issue here. Flip to the next page. Site gas. What they're referring to here, there's two components to this. Inside some of our buildings, this building right here being one of them, our furnace room, all gas lines have to be painted yellow and maintained so that they're not rusting. So there's a few spots in our buildings, but predominantly what they're talking about here was our gas service where it came into our buildings. If you notice on our buildings at the middle school in the back, there's a chained-in fenced area where our gas service comes. At the elementary school, there's a spot, and at the high school, actually in all of our buildings. Some of the components within those areas were rusting and needed repair and update. Made a phone call to Central Hudson, had them come out and take a look, because it's actually outside stuff that they were referring to. And they've been in the process of coming in and changing our flow meters and valves on the outside and the piping and cleaning that up. So a portion of that work has already been completed as well. Some of our fire and smoke systems got some additional work to do. I think when we redid some of our spaces here, down here for the town, some fire alarms were, and smoke heads were not placed in the right locations. Not this building. Actually was in that building, in that office. When they put the ceiling in, there were smoke heads in there. But whomever did the work never dropped them down to the ceiling level. So when they come in, they notice that kind of stuff. They put that. Having been here a while, I knew that there were smoke heads in that area. We went up into the ceiling. We found those smoke heads. They've been lowered. There's still a few others, but predominantly that's what happened over here. Next item is our athletic and our play fields. Again, down at the middle school, the old tennis courts, really not being used, obviously, as tennis courts. Some significant heaving, cracking within that blacktop area. We've made an attempt to fill many of those cracks, but still the overall condition of that area is in pretty rough shape. Again, over at the high school, turf field and track, beginning to enter the end phases of their useful life, which was about 10 to 12 years. So when they come through, if they know the age of a system, and they will notify you that that system is coming up for repair or replacement. Doors within our building, some of our doors are older and need replacement. Some of our exterior walls need some work, some steps, and that number reflects that work at the middle school, at Milton, and MES. heating and cooling. The boiler piping that they said was against code, that I know for certain has been taken care of. The Marlboro High School chiller compressor, we had a motor in that unit go bad. That's already been taken care of and replaced. Our next slide identifies flooring, the needs in our flooring, emergency lighting, Marlboro Middle School. The O&M department has taken and redone all the hallway lighting already and installed emergency lighting within that, within the units that are there. They had a cost on that for about $185,000. The O&M department, for the actual parts and the labor involved, did it for about $24,000. Took us a lot, I shouldn't say a lot longer, took us a little bit longer than what, you know, if we hired a contractor. We actually took a year. As you saw a number of times within your board reports, I kept telling you, you know, we're getting to this step along the way. But that work has already been completed. Excuse me. Next area was exhaust fans. Some work needed at the high school. And, you know, they mention our exhaust fans at the middle school. If you go up on the roof and look at some of our exhaust fans on the middle school, they're older, they're rusting a bit, they're still running. So they identified those as coming to useful life at the end of their useful life. But as an individual unit breaks on the roof, we will go up and replace that on an individual basis rather than just putting all new shiny objects up there just to put a shiny object up there. That doesn't make sense. There's some miscellaneous work that you see here in our central storage, a new lift. Middle school, replace the modular windows. We know, and we've been talking about the locker rooms at the middle school. I know that we're all interested in at some point when we are able to budget that. That's something that we want to take care of. We know that those areas need upgrades. Next slide just shows some of the work that we've actually done. I probably have talked about some of this as we went through there. So you can see the gas line, the emergency lighting, and the compressor all taken care of already. We're also working on $100,000 projects where we want to be able to chip away at some of this work that needs to be done without ever having to go out to some type of a capital project. So the state has a program that's relatively new, where if a district spends up to $100,000 at an individual building, that money is eligible for state aid. Correct, Pat? You want to explain that a little bit further?
Yeah, that, rather than receive aid on a project like that over a number of years, of a $100,000 project, you receive your full allocation of building aid the following year. So if we were aided at 50%, and we're right around 50%, if we spend $100,000, the next year we'll receive $50,000 in building aid, all in a one lump sum. So if you line that up to where every year we're doing a $100,000 a year project, after the first initial budgeting outlay of the $100,000, you essentially only have a net cost of $50,000 a year to do $100,000 worth of work. So we're in the process of identifying work that can be done within those parameters. And it has to be, if it's $101,000, then you get building aid over 20 years. But if it's $99,000, you get it all the next year. So you can't be $1 over $100,000.
Yeah, so it's something that we have to plan and understand the scope of work so that we slide in either at 100,000 or slightly under so that we get our proper reimbursement. And we are in that process. We had spoken to the facilities committee earlier in the year. We were looking to do a project at the high school. We wanted to start replacing some of those exterior security doors which need replacement. also benefit us for our heating and our cooling because they are extremely drafty, but also a security concern on some of those doors. As we went through that process and started to develop a budget and develop cost, what we found was for $100,000, not going to do all the doors at the high school. And there's probably, so I believe there's 30 or more exterior doors at the high school. The double doors run well over $10,000 a piece. So we just weren't going to get enough bang for our buck on doing that in this manner. So we're looking now with Pat and our engineer at some additional items that we can switch to and move in that direction to get some of that work rolling so we can continue to chip away at these items.
Hey, Pat, if you split that and you do half the doors one year and half the doors the next year, does that work?
We'd have to look at that because if it's identified as a whole unit, I don't know if they'll approve only doing half.
Even if you skip a year, you know, it's...
Yeah, we could look at that. I don't know if there's some duplicity of like the engineering fees and architectural fees that might not make that as attractive as addressing it in another manner. But we are looking at, you know, all the others. And it's got to be $100,000. You can do one project a year and it's got to be located within one building. So just some of the parameters.
And then this last slide is just a summary of the work that needs to be done on a dollar basis at each of our buildings. So you got the central storage garage and offices, the middle school, the high school, Middle Hope Elementary, Milton Elementary, and the Marlboro Elementary School.
And it is just worth noting that, you know, the middle school, our oldest school, has the most identified work needing to be done. And even when you look at the Milton or Marlboro Elementary School, approximately $1 million of that work was the nice-to-do roof replacement. So, you know, that's not really an item that's on the top of the list of needing to be done. And also, when you talked about the exhaust fans at the middle school, that was a couple $100,000 again.
Yeah.
I think that was a list of item number 4, which is really like an other category. It's not even, you know, nice to do. It's less than that in the requirement.
Does anybody on the board have questions?
Larry, I do. As we spoke in the facilities meeting, I know your next step is to kind of lay this out in the next 5-year plan and see what you can hit in these different categories, whether it's the 100,000 or less, some that you can do in-house, whatever the categories may be. What do you all anticipate we're going to see come the next month or two in the budget cycle? Are you going to have that plan ready, or at least maybe the next year or two worth of that, so we can see where we have to include budget, if at all?
I'll take a swing at that one if you don't mind. That's actually some of the direction that we're hoping to get from the board as we progress through the budget process. Certainly, we're going to try to look at this from a fiscal perspective on what we can build into an operating budget for things that Larry can do in-house, or smaller items that we can do through a short, quick bidding process for smaller jobs that wouldn't be capital in nature. But certainly some of these rise to the level that it's cost effective to put it into a capital expenditure, and we would work with the board to figure out how we best do that to maximize the money. When you go through a capital expenditure process, the state pays for a lot more of it than the local taxpayer. So that's part of what we want to do over the next, let's say, 3 to 6 months, is figure out that process as we move through this winter and spring. So today's the jumping off point. I mean, I think that the general sense that Larry and Pat have impressed upon me in this process is that we're in a good place. We've done an awful lot of work as a school district over the last couple of projects, that our buildings are in a very good place. We want to make sure that we keep them there, so we want to be wise in how we approach not only our day-to-day maintenance work, our annual maintenance work that happens in the summertime when the buildings are empty, but also how do we look at some of these bigger ticket items that if we don't address, they become very big issues down the line. So that's the strategy, John.
Yeah, I guess I would think we would need some advice from you all on how that lines up, right? What's capital project, what's that, and the timing of it, so we can give you some direction. And
Yeah, certain aspects of this wouldn't even be eligible for a capital project, such as the chiller replacement. That's just a repair of
Right.
existing. So you wouldn't be, even if you tied it into a project, it's not going to generate aid. So those are
Right.
the type of items we'll try and identify as being dealt with locally.
yeah, I mean, obviously, there's a lot of work to do there. I'm just trying to think of timing, like the budget cycle starts really in a month or two, right? So
Yeah, I
is
don't
that too
think-
early to really include anything yet, or?
No, I don't think it's too early to have a discussion of, do we want to allocate some money to work towards these projects? With that, we don't necessarily need to have a list of what's going to be done, just conceptually, is that something that we
Yeah,
want to?
that's really what the question was. Thanks.
And on a broader sense, from a budgetary perspective, also, our effort is to consolidate as much of our operating expenditures during the course of the year so that we can make deposits into our capital reserve every year. So we've got some thoughts and perspectives on that when it comes to the end of this year. So again, that's our long-term strategy, is to bank money so that when there are inevitably larger expenditures that are needed down the line, we can offset that for the local taxpayer with money that we would put in the bank. So that's a big piece of it too. It's not so much how much we can build into any one cycle, it's how much can we consolidate in really carefully spending our money so that we can put money away each year for the big ticket item.
We were well positioned to do that before our little hiccup this year, as you're all aware, right?
Any other questions? No. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Excellent.
Thank you. I was prepared for backup questions, but
Something tells me we'll spend a lot more time talking about this in the coming months, so hold on to your books, Larry, we're going to need them.
To complete our reports at this time, I invite the BOE applicants who are applying for the vacant seat to address the board. I would first like to thank Mrs. LaFaro, Mr. Mackey, Mrs. Toombs, for taking the time to come tonight, as I do know that we're getting down to the wire, and this is a very, very busy time of year for many people, so thank you. The board appreciates your interest in the position, and we look forward to asking you some questions afterwards. I ask that Mrs. LaFaro approach the podium, and after you express your interest to the board, each member will have the opportunity to ask you a question in order to gain a better perspective of your interest. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Board of Education, Mr. Brooks, and the Marlboro community. It is with great enthusiasm that I submit my name this evening for the open seat on the Board of Education. I'm very excited and proud to be part of the Marlboro community. In these challenging times for public education, I am very passionate and find satisfaction in confronting challenges and working collegiately to help students and families succeed. I believe serving as a member of the Board of Education is one of the most noble ways of giving back to the community, assuring the success of every child. As an educator for the past 20 years, and as an active and proud parent of my two daughters, Erin and Elizabeth, both of whom attend Marlboro High School, it has long been a goal of mine to become more active and support and enhance the educational system in the Marlboro Central School District. Not a day goes by that I don't reflect on this role as a parent and as an educator. I understand that it is the most important task that I've been given, and it only takes one significant relationship to positively impact a child. I feel fortunate to have chosen the Marlboro community to raise our children, a place we proudly call home, where my husband and I know that they are valued, known to teachers and community members alike because of the many strengths of this community, where a child is not another number, instead known for their individuality, and they can excel way beyond the classroom. All because of the sense of community that Marlboro offers. I have been a member of the Marlboro community for the past 18 years. I have a keen knowledge of the challenges which face our community and the educational system as it presently exists. I have seen the Marlboro community band together and withstand challenging times, and have always been an advocate to preserve program, enhance program, and promote rigor. I understand that I understand the students of our district are our ultimate focus, and it is equally important to support the educators serving our students, because these are the individuals with whom we entrust our children with as teachers, mentors, and friends. My experience first as a parent, coupled with my experience as an educator, affords me a unique vantage point to support the vision and the mission of the Marlboro Central School District. I am extremely fortunate that I have been raised with a keen understanding of the value of education. My parents raised my 5 siblings and I with a strong work ethic, focusing on education, respect for self and others as a cornerstone to our success. Born and raised in Newburgh, New York, I attended Newburgh Free Academy. This allowed me to experience firsthand the value of a diverse public education. I learned very early on how a positive school experience can influence a child's life. As a student athlete, I established meaningful relationships with many teachers and coaches, and have no doubt that these relationships significantly shaped who I am. This ultimately guided me towards my career in education. I went on to receive a bachelor's degree in education and sociology from the State University of New York at Cortland, and from there attended Lehman University in the Bronx, earning my master's degree in specialized services in education, school counseling. Thus, pursued my career as a school counselor. I have 20 years of service in public schools and am presently employed in the Newburgh and Large City School District. Throughout my tenure, I have gained valuable work experience working in elementary, middle, and high school levels. My role as a school counselor has been invaluable. I have consistently supported a collaborative and comprehensive approach to the educational process. I have taken leadership roles on SEL teams, school leadership teams, community partnerships, and parental involvement initiatives, advocating for students as part of my extensive experience in education and school improvement and reform efforts. Throughout my work experience as a leader in education, I have worked closely with administrative teams on a daily basis and teachers. I believe these work experiences and ability to work with others would allow me to contribute as a valued member of the Marlboro Board of Education. I believe my experience as a parent and community member and a student advocate resonates throughout the district's vision and mission statement. First and foremost, I am committed to excellence. Secondly, as a community member and as a taxpayer, I am committed to managing the finances entrusted by the taxpayers of the Marlboro Central School District. And additionally, my experience working in a K-12 educational system allows me to support the district goals, student achievement. I understand the importance of academic rigor, graduation requirements, pathways to diplomas, and state regulations. I understand the challenges students and families face, those experiencing trauma, life stressors, and navigating the educational system. I am an advocate for students and families, and I understand the importance of supporting pupil personnel services and supporting staff, and I am an advocate for exceptional learners. All students deserve equal opportunity, and it is our job to assure that they have access to these resources and that they need to be successful. As a parent of 2 hardworking student athletes, I understand the stressors our students and families face daily. We live day to day in a community where people are working hard, day and night, to give their children perhaps a better life than they themselves had. I understand that education, coupled with that positive school experience and the right supports, can change the course of a child's life. Finally, as an educator, I believe my reputation as a respected colleague and school leader will allow me to work with the Board of Education and the administrative district teams to develop data-driven systems, analyze data, and gain insight related to school improvement measures. In reflecting on my work and reputation as a parent, educator, and friend, I believe most would describe me as a student advocate, a team player, and a respected colleague, a valued community member who uses sound judgment, always serving in the best interest of all. Very honestly, I've given a tremendous amount of thought to approaching this challenge to serve as a member of the Board of Education, and have toiled with this commitment for many years. I have instilled, I hope, in my own children how fortunate they are to have the unique opportunities before them. And I understand the commitment it takes to serve our community in this capacity. Time, more time, patience, and effort. And I know it can often seem to go unnoticed and unappreciated. I discussed with my family that perhaps it's my time to give back and follow a passion of mine. They graciously said, "Mom, you've been talking about this for years. Just go do it. Do what you would tell us to do." So, as they take the court tonight in Red Hook for the varsity girls basketball team, I hope, Mr. Milazzo, you're getting some Twitter updates for me. I understand that this is much more than a missed basketball game. I am acting on a commitment to do something for the greater good, for all, for students, schools, and families, and community. So it is with great pleasure that I submit my name to you for your consideration. I'd like to thank you, the members of the Board of Education, Mr. Brooks, and the Marlboro community. I am committed to serve as a valued member of the Marlboro Board of Education, highly regarded for academic excellence, advancement of the arts, athletics, and developing leaders far beyond the classroom. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. LaFaro, Ms. Reed has a question for you. She has laryngitis, so she has asked if I would read her question.
Sure.
Being in education, what would you like to see change, if anything, here in Marlboro? And what positive change would that bring to our students?
Okay. So great question. I think the first thing that resonates to me when you ask that question is really, I guess, defining the word change. And for me, even listening this evening, I recognize, that there's certainly a lot to learn, right? And in terms of being a team and a member of a system that's working for the greater good, I'd like to answer that question is to first understand as a team what the goals are of the Board of Education. And while we know that is rigor and academics and managing fiscally, I wouldn't say I'm here to change. I would say I'm here to be part of the greater good, to move as a district forward, addressing what those priority items are, and supporting those goals.
Thank you. On behalf of Joanne.
So first of all, we must still be winning because they haven't Red Hook hasn't put an update up in an hour. It was the end of the third, and we were up 39-33.
Okay.
So I can
Thank
only
you
hope,
for that update.
I can only hope that we're winning, but
JV1.
the question I would have really deals about the process we're in right now. Do you feel that it is an advantage or that it's an extra step that if we select somebody to fill a partial term prior to the election, that it's fair to other people that may be involved, that may have an interest?
I'm not sure I understand your question. Meaning, if you as a board decide to fill a position?
If we, the board, decide to fill the position prior to the election, do you feel that gives that person that we select an unfair advantage when they have to run in May?
No, I don't think that gives an I think it says something about you as a board, that you're looking to fill a vacant seat with a skilled member who can enhance your board. I think the easier way out would be not to fill that seat. You know, it would be simpler, right? And just let the chips fall where they may and let people run for the board election. So I think that you have an opportunity to, in a very important time in the process, you know, coming up to budgetary, you know, there's a lot of things on the table, but I think it's a wise decision. And I wouldn't say that there's a disadvantage or not. I think it's a unique opportunity. Obviously, we have some talented candidates. I don't think any of us expected that 3 people who have a different set of skill set would be vying. There was a time that nobody was running for the Board of Education. So whatever your decision may be, I know that I'm happy to see as a community member that not only myself, but people are taking a vested interest. And I've seen many great changes in the district over the years. Back when, you know, 6, 7 years ago, I was asked to serve on a budgetary committee when we were in really financial crises. And I've seen a very stable board moving forward, and I've seen some great changes. And I think that has encouraged me in many ways.
Thank you.
My question for you, one thing that I appreciate about this current board is that we all come to the table with diverse experiences, ideas, thoughts, and although we might not always agree, in the end, we work as a unified front toward the goal of relentless pursuit of excellence. If you're appointed to this board, how will you abide by that concept, even though you may not personally support a decision of the board majority?
So I think, you know, I reflect on my work as a respected colleague and working for many years with, you know, I'd like to say a very reputable reputation that, you know, that I'm proud of. I've served as a leader, but part of leading is listening to others. And I know what my strengths are. I know what my areas are that I have to learn more about. I believe that my experience as an educator, I would be a valuable member to the Board of Education with my experience in a K-12. I've worked at elementary, middle, and high school levels. I've worked in schools while my tenure started in the Newburgh Enlarged City School District. When I had my 2 children, I stayed home for 6 years to do my job, to re-enter to another challenging school district in Highland Falls. So I have, you know, diverse experience. I came back to Newburgh to be closer to home, where I could spend more time with my girls in their transitional years. So I do believe that my experience in a K-12 system and knowing many of you and different strengths, I think I would be a valued member, but also learning from you all as well.
Thank you.
I have a question. So most folks, and myself included, when they want to be on a board, they come with a perspective, and that perspective is mostly based on experiences, whether the experience is financial or, in your case, educational, and various other things. Is there anything about where the board is going, whether that be their existing goals or maybe new goals that you'd like to see us pursue, that you think you would come in and be most focused on or trying to influence the most, whether that be for a change or maybe just supporting what we're already doing or anything in between? Just curious if you have any kind of a perspective like that coming in.
So something that I personally would want to see changed, or?
Changed, or something you'd want to support to grow even further that's underway, or something that's maybe not as much of a priority now that you think we should put on the top of the list, or any combination of that?
So I would be remiss, right, so I'm transparent, right? I would say that that's one of my, I can be described as honest. My strength is education. It's my passion too. So coupled, when I read and I listen and I understand, you see the students up here this evening, like, that's what it's all about. I often say, this isn't rocket science what we're doing. We're caring about kids, we're caring about families, and we're caring about communities. So that's like the presence of how I operate every day from my heart. I'm a social worker too, so a counselor. So I wouldn't say I'm as savvy as you are when it comes to the number ends, right? So I know that those are areas that I would learn more about listening to Mr. Cavazza tonight. Like, those are areas that I know would be a new, that's not, I'm not consulted with every day. I'm consulted with things on a daily basis about many things. But to answer you, I want to see this district continue to move in the direction that it's moving. There's so many challenges. You heard me this summer, right? Like, we're constantly facing these challenges. I sit at night and I see my daughters working so hard, my husband and I working with them. They both have 8 tests, 4 and 4 tomorrow. So, I'm saying, don't come here, get home, get your studying done. So I want to be part of the greater good. I want to see this district continue to move forward. I've been a community member for 18 years. I know that years when we were really facing challenging times, I was scared. I was scared. There was, my husband kept saying, stop going to those meetings. You're not sleeping at night because you're so worried about the educational system. Because that's what I'm grounded in. That's what I believe in. And that's the future, not only of my children, but this entire community. So I was taught as a young girl, like my parents said to me, your education is the most important thing. And when my girls walk out the door every day, that's what I say to them. Go do your job, and everything will fall in its place, and work hard. So I just want to be part of that, moving the district forward.
Thank you. I've got a simple, what I would think is a simple yes or no question for you, because you don't have any water up there. So
That's okay.
If one of the other applicants was chosen, would you be back in May to run?
Yes. Is that all? I can only say yes or no. Okay, yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Next up, Mr. Mackey.
President Horton, Vice President Milazzo, Superintendent Brooks, distinguished board members. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Ed Mackey. Thank you all for the honor for applying for this open board seat. I'm represented this evening by my wife, Christine, my daughter, Sarah, and my son, Nick. Before I begin my personal remarks, I'd like to acknowledge Mrs. Toombs and Mrs. LaFaro. Both I have the utmost respect for and would serve this district with distinction. To those of you, again, who don't know me, I've been volunteering in this district since the age of 16. I started out as a firefighter with the Milton Fire Department and continue to this day. I became an EMT and volunteered for the ambulance of the district for many years. Later, I became a paramedic, and it became my career until I retired in 2010. Today, I'm the safety officer for our department, a board member for the train station, and a member of the Lions Club. I'm also one of the lay speakers for our church here at the Methodist Church in Milton. What do I do for a career? Currently, I work for myself. I inspect high-value homes for their homeowners insurance. I have the luxury of making my own schedule, and if it rains, I stay home. but it allows me to do what I love, to be involved in my family's activities and be involved in the organizations that I had just laid out. Mr. Withrow asked the qualifying question, why am I seeking a vacant board seat? The short answer is now I have the opportunity in my life to give back to the district. Let me explain. My wife, my children, and myself are all products of this school district. I'm grateful for what this district has done for all of us. Our children, Nick and Sarah, have excelled in their educational careers, and the foundation started here. Usually children are a reflection of their parents. However, in my case, I can honestly say that I'm a reflection of them. Mr. Brooks, let me state for the record that I endorse your vision for our district and will work diligently to help you whether I'm selected or not. My children are a product of your vision. When I was here for the workshop 2 weeks ago, I was so happy to watch and listen to every presentation. Mr. Lawler commented to me that there could have been 15 or 20 more presentations that night. I wouldn't have cared. I would have loved every one of them, even though we would have been here until 2 o'clock in the morning. I used to teach OSHA nationwide, and I loved doing it. The problem I faced was, how do I keep people awake during the lecture for OSHA? My wife, an educator, is the most brilliant person in the world. She taught me a very valuable lesson that helped me. She said, people learn and remember more when they're having fun. Mr. Brooks, what we saw 2 weeks ago was students having fun with every presentation. They were learning. I want to be here to help cultivate that. I'd like to step off for a second, and I have to make a comment about that night. Mr. Fassel, the high school educator in the high school, the science educator in the high school, I was pleasantly surprised to see him that night and give a presentation with the students. He was at school earlier that night with track practice until 5 p.m. and then showcased his students at the workshop. To me, he's a professional educator. He's a football coach, a winter and spring track coach, not to mention a great science teacher. I know where this guy lives. There are times he doesn't get home until 1 o'clock in the morning from a West Point track meet. His focus is simple: educate the students and cultivate what is special about each of them. He's a special person. Having said that, we all know that there are other educators in our district just like him. I also know there's another side of the coin. I know there will be tough decisions and heated discussions ahead. My feeling is there's always a compromise available to help all parties involved. I pledge to everyone here to keep my mission in front of me, to make decisions that will benefit the students, educators, and taxpayers of this district. I will make the time to find a resolution that could help all parties involved. It'll be tough, but I'll make time to make sure we get it right. We have a rule in our home. When one of our children has an event, whether it's a gymnastics meet in Massachusetts or a track meet at West Point, all county music at the community college, a family representative must always be there to support our children. As an example, when Nick had his first T-ball game, there was 11 of us there. My point is this, gang. I pledge to attend every event possible that we have in our district whether it's modified sports, tennis match, plays, concerts. Each student at these events put a lot of time and work doing what they love and having fun. I want to attend these events and cheer them on. I want them to know that as a board member, the student and family members, I want to make sure that they're recognized and supported. Finally, I'd like to state for the record that if selected, I fully intend to run for a full term next year. I don't want to keep the seat warm for somebody else. This district has so much to offer our students and our educators. I want to be here to help move your vision forward. There will be hard decisions. My intention is to be the voice of compromise and resolution. Thank you all for allowing me to speak this evening. And as a side, Mr. Brooks, I look forward to working with you at Shark Tank. I hear it's in February. I'd be honored to answer any of your questions. Thank you very much, all.
I will start with Ms. Reed, and I hope I understand your question correctly. Mr. Mackey, how would you be able to keep your promise, this pledge you speak of, as a balance to the taxpayer, the student, the educator, in a financial situation? Balance that promise.
It'll be very simple because we balance that in our family, and we've done pretty good so far. Yeah, we have heated conversations, and yeah, it's going to be tough. But as long as we keep the lines of communication open, we'll get it done. I firmly believe that. I will never change who I am. I will always keep that mission in front of me. That's the way we've lived our lives, and that's the way it's going to be from my standpoint and my promise to you. Will it be tough? Yes, it will be tough. There's no question. But I'm going to keep that mission ahead of me.
1 second. Did you hear any of what she said?
I'm sorry I didn't. That's quite all right.
Turn your microphone.
I guess one of my questions is, when we went through such a hard time and we had let so many people go in our programs, and trust me, that was very hard to do, how do you make a promise that we're going to keep everything? Because we never know what's going to happen tomorrow. So that's where I'm coming from. How do you promise something that you don't know what's going to happen? But I am very grateful that we got to bring back so many of our wonderful programs and see our students shine. I am very grateful for that.
We all are in agreement here, and we all understand that some things happen occasionally beyond our control, and there's not a blessed thing we can do about it. We are given a hand that we all have to deal with, whether it be the financial crisis that we all endured or whatever circumstance that arises. Can I still promise that I will keep all those things in front of me and try to balance them out? Absolutely. But I also know that during that financial crisis, we lost a lot of good people. We lost a lot of good people. So if I understand your question is, how can I say that I promise to keep those things in line with all of those things that happened?
So I try not to promise.
I understand.
And that was one of my things is.
I guess what I can say to your question then is, regardless of the hand that is dealt us, whether it be a financial crisis, whatever that is given us that we have to adjudicate or we have to resolve, my promise still holds that I will keep all of those in check and come out with the best opinion for the board, the best answer I can give for the board, while keeping all three of those components intact, because each one of them are special in itself, and it's special to this district. So I will do everything in my power, given the hand that is presented to us, to make sure that we have the best on all three of those, and everybody is represented in the best way possible. Does that help?
I don't have a question.
Why?
I'm the one asking the question.
Sorry.
My question is, as a board, we are charged with many aspects of decision-making, sometimes doing the right thing and making the right decisions for the bigger picture of the district means making decisions that can be unpopular for certain groups of people. How does doing what's right versus doing what's popular drive your decision-making process?
I've never been popular in school, so I'm okay with that. But some of you already know me. I'm a very transparent person, like Mrs. LaFaro says about herself. You're all going to know where I'm coming from. I don't hide anything. I wear my emotions on my sleeve. I'm going to do and I'm going to say what's right, not what's popular. Because what is right is going to end up being popular, because we're keeping those goals in front of us.
Thank you.
Mr. Mackey, I have pretty much the same question that I asked Mrs. LaFaro. Do you have anything coming into the board where you think there's areas that either you think you would focus on regarding improvements or expanding upon existing goals, or just, is there any particular objectives that you think your perspective will benefit the board and would like to see bring forward as you would be included in the board?
I'm really glad you asked me that question, because I kind of prepared for it a little bit. My philosophy, I love where this education cycle is going. I mean, I really love what I saw with Mr. Lawler and those students that night. They were having a blast flipping a bottle of water, and they learned about it. They learned math. I loved it. So to your question, sir, I want to cultivate those educators who are performing or exceeding their performances. I want to cultivate them. Now, we all know, and I'm not going to be naive, that we have educators, whether it be in our district or any other district, that need to be brought up, that need remediation, whatever you want to call it. The beautiful thing is, we have those educators now that they can learn from, and they can pull them up. So I want to cultivate the educators of our district. What they've done, and I'm going to speak personally real quick, what they've done for my family and for my children, I have to support them, because I have to support those educators because of what they've done for our children. And it's not just my family, I've seen it with other families as well. I want to cultivate the excellence, and I want them to succeed. And for those that need the help, I want to bring them up and have them help out as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, another quick question for you. So May of 2017, there was 3 seats open, only 2 applicants. Just wondering why you didn't run then and what brought you out now.
Fair enough. I wasn't in a position in my life to be able to do that. Turning 50, changing my work habits and my work styles, I do now have that luxury to be able to help out now. I would not have been, I was not in the place to help out the way that I can now.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Mrs. Toombs.
Good evening. My reason for seeking the vacant Board of Education trustee seat lies in my desire to serve this community. In the 17th century, the first public schools were open. How fortuitous of our forefathers to make proper education compulsory. I believe that public education was the paramount antecedent and continues to this day in making the United States of America the greatest country in the world. Through our schools, a free and appropriate education is provided for the rich and the poor, the strong and the weak, those robust in health, as well as those who are ill. Mentally and physically challenged individuals are provided educations which are modified to address their special learning needs. Those students who are eager to learn and those students who have yet come to comprehend the importance of an education are embraced. Social norms and attendance policies help to keep our children safe. Through academics, the arts, and athletics, our students are exposed to the tools and pathways needed for life's future endeavors. No other country in the world services the populations or designs the individual learning plans for the diversities that challenge our public schools. The team that it takes to educate an individual is vast. Teachers, administrators, nurses, custodians, ground crews, clerical staff, cafeteria workers, paraprofessionals, experts, researchers, and board members. Keeping this capacious group focused and on course is monumental. There is a hierarchy and structure with governance at each level. As a parent, I was fortunate to have my children attend the Marlborough Central School District, where they maintained high academic standards, were student athletes, and members of school government and community groups. Within the Marlborough, Milton, and Middle Hope communities, I volunteer my time, participate within, and continue and contribute toward many organizations and events. My memberships include the United Methodist Church of Milton Marlborough, VB Sutton, American Legion Auxiliary Post 124, Meet Me in Marlborough, and Middle Hope Fire Department Ladies Auxiliary. As a former public educator, I've had the distinct honor of fulfilling a myriad of roles: teacher, advisor, coach, substitute teacher, assistant principal, principal, and assistant superintendent of schools. My tenure spans 6 school districts, working in more than 14 different buildings. In Marlborough, I was afforded quite a unique perspective, having worked at the high school, middle school, Milton Elementary School, Marlborough Intermediate School, Marlborough Elementary School, Middle Hope Elementary School, and Central Office. Throughout my years of employment, I was driven, passionate, and humbled. Living and working in the community, I was unable to seek a board position. With no time left in my day and parameters set forth by the state, I was not eligible to seek a Board of Education seat. Retirement has lifted the constraints set forth by the state and given me the gift of time. The Board of Education's goals are important to you, and they are to me. Placing your trust in me is a significant expression of confidence, and I will do everything possible to justify it. Rest assured, any information shared with me in my capacity as a board member will be held in absolute confidence. In closing, my desire is not to make idle promises of what I might be able to accomplish if selected for this seat. What I can promise you is that I would fulfill the position with integrity, a strong work ethic, and positive energy. Thank you.
Thank you.
So my question is if you get on the board, what can you bring to the board, and how would it be positive to everybody? So here, and how would you want to pursue a change or anything? Because there are normally 7 of us, and like Sue said before, we always work together. So what would you want to bring to the board?
Okay, I got most of your question.
Sorry.
What would I want to bring to the board, and what was the second part?
And basically, making it productive or positive for everybody here, including the students.
On the board. I hope with what I said, it shared what I would bring to the board. It would bring a professional career of experience in education and various components of education, from a substitute teacher, which was phenomenal experience to have, a coach, an advisor, an administrator, a teacher, and to know a job from all different perspectives and to have walked in so many different shoes is it's very humbling, and you're not as quick to jump and make decisions or make calls or judgments if you truly have walked in another set of shoes. So I could bring that experience. I can bring the experience of being a parent in the community and having children gone through the district. We talked about our student of the month tonight, graduating high school with enough credits for 1 year of college. When my son was in school, his grade was the first to receive any college credits. And then my daughter came through and she had even more. And then my youngest came through and she had even more. So I've watched it evolve to the point where now you have children graduating with experiences in C-Tech or first years of college under their belt. So from a parent's point of view, I understand that, and I see how that is a positive thing for our community. What else could I bring to the board? An athlete my whole life. Maybe not so much now, but I was a team player. A team of strong people is great, but the hardest thing is to get those strong people to act like a team. And that's a give and take, that's a balance, that's listening. It's like my colleagues here said, it's a lot of transparency, it's a lot of understanding, it's a lot of educating yourself.
So the one tough question really comes down to, after the many years you spent here, how do you separate those close ties with your peers and subordinates into your new role if you were to be put on the board?
And I don't see that as a tough question, because as a community member and an employee, I didn't blur those lines. It was very easy for me to say, I'm at work and this is what I have to do when I'm at work, because that's what I was hired to do. I wasn't hired to, it wasn't a popularity contest, I wasn't hired to be people's friends, I was hired to be humane and a good human being. Those were qualities I brought to my job, but I was given a job to do. And like was alluded to earlier, a lot of those decisions are not, like Susie's question earlier, a lot of those decisions are not popular decisions. I wouldn't have a problem with that. I would listen carefully when people spoke to me. I'm out and about in towns, in the stores, on the fields, wherever I am, and people say things and I listen and and that's part of being a board member. You're the ears of the community. You want to be listening to what people are saying. How you filter that, along with what your administrative team brings to you, is key.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, he sort of took my question, so I'll perhaps maybe change it slightly. So, having said that, with all of those relationships that you have cultivated and created over the years, in serving in the various capacities that you have served this district, can you tell me how those relationships would benefit you in your role as a board member and how they would be a challenge to you? And perhaps you've spoken to some of it, but maybe you can expand.
They would benefit me because I think people know who I am. So they're going to talk to me, people will talk to me, people might say, could you do this or can you help with that? And again, they're going to know I am going to try to do everything I possibly can. That's what I did when I was an employee. That's what I did when I'm a neighbor. That's what I do if I'm a member of the Ladies Auxiliary, or if I'm a member of my church, or whatever I do. I will give you a lot of energy, and I will research something to death, almost to compulsion and nauseum for some, but that's how my brain works, and I will put forth the best. The relationships will be fine because I am who I am, and I can't change who I am. And I can't even pretend to put that kind of energy out there. How will it be a challenge? Because I am who I am. So my greatest strength is my Achilles tendons as well.
Thank you.
Mr. Toombs, I'd like to give you the opportunity to answer the same question I did for the other two, so we get all three perspectives. And that is, do you come in with a particular idea, focus, or perspective of where we could have areas of opportunity for change, or to expand upon what's existing that's already underway, or maybe something new that the board isn't really focused on right now?
I think when people run for the board, and this isn't really a running per se, and I am glad, as Patty LaFaro said, I'm glad that there are people going out and that there's not an apathetic attitude, so that's a good thing. And in May, maybe there'll even be more people out, so that's all very positive, and that's commendable to Mr. Brooks and his administrative team and the board, because things have shifted, and they're shifting in the right direction. When you run for the board, I believe you might have these grand illusions that I'm going to do this and I'm going to try that, and in reality, that's not really what happens, but you can't lose sight of those dreams either. Mr. Brooks has on his webpage a statement about the pursuit of excellence. There was a saying that I was taught very young in my career by a friend of mine, a colleague of mine, and it was good, better, best, never let it rest till your good gets better until your better gets best. And I believe in that. Always work hard, try your best, whatever it is. I want our scores to be higher, bottom line. I want our special education department to be stronger and more embrace it. And I heard it tonight. I heard about possible intramural team that will be happening. I think that's fantastic. I've seen the last few years how Special Olympics has been consistent now. That's fantastic. I want our sports teams, when we go places, when my son works in Westchester, he runs into people and they'll talk about Marlboro to him, and he's so proud, and he doesn't say anything, and then he may say, if the opportunity avails itself, I know, I'm from that town you were just talking about, and that's what I want. I want, when we go places, that we make a difference, because even though the kids are here in Marlboro, they're going to scatter. The world is flat. They're going to scatter like seeds. And wherever they go, the far reaches of the world, I want them to know that they started on strong ground here, and then they were able to go wherever they wanted in this world. And we don't even know where this world is going to bring them. We don't even know what we're doing, because it's so different for the young people. So do I want change? I want change. I want everything the best. Top scores, state championships, and will they happen? No, but it's not because of a lack of trying or desire.
Thank you, Mr. Toombs.
And the most challenging question of the night. Thank you, first of all, for serving our district for so many years. How is your retirement?
If somebody said to me, you're going to be standing there doing that, here right now, I would have said, no way. It's lovely. It's a gift, and I'm aware of it, and it opens other doors. And as I've said to many people, it wasn't so much about leaving my job, because my job was a gift. It was more about doing different things, and I'm doing them. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. I think that this opportunity really, it's unique to us, and it allows us to truly gain a better perspective of the three of you. I believe most likely we will be talking about this in greater detail at our next meeting, and we'll get back to you next year. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to public comment on agenda items. Is there any public comment on agenda items? Then moving to the consent agenda. Resolve that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, approve the following reports. The unofficial board minutes from November 29th, 2017 and December 7th, 2017. Personnel recommendations, claims audit letter and report, audit report, financial reports for November 2017, contracts, LexisNexis, Tetra Tech, Ed Data, Mail Finance, and CSE, CPSE report as presented. Can I get a motion to approve reports? Joanne, second. John. Any discussion?
I do have a question. This will be for Pat on the budget status report. Just a question of clarification. I just want to make sure I understand the last two columns, what they represent. The encumbrance outstanding and unencumbered balance. Can you explain those a little bit?
Sure. So encumbrance outstanding is the amount of money that we've kind of restricted within that budget line because there's known expenditures against it already. So, for instance, at the beginning of the year, we'll encumber everybody's salaries. So in salaries, you might see, an original appropriation. You'll have encumbrances. Encumbrance outstanding would be the portion of the salary that we've restricted from being used for anything else for the rest of the year. So, if you're a teacher and you make, $75,000 a year, we encumber $75,000 at the beginning of the school year. And then every time you get paid, your actual expense increases and your pending your encumbrance outstanding decreases until the $75,000 gets paid out all the way across the year. So that's just money that's is restricted, it's encumbered, so somebody else couldn't go into that budget code and spend that money that we have already encumbered. So that's just kind of money that we know is going to continue to be spent throughout the year. And what was the last one? Unencumbered balance, that's money that is available in that budget code.
So if I could say that differently, tell me if this makes sense or is exactly what you're saying. So the encumbrance outstanding represents money that you plan to spend. You're restricting it in the way that you're managing your budget, but that's planning to spend even though thus far in the year it hasn't been spent.
Well, the potential is we plan to spend everything that's budgeted in theory, except for as we talked about the buffer amount of money we put in there. But yeah, that's money that we know for a fact that money is going to be spent exactly for that purpose in this coming year.
And the other column, the unencumbered balance, could be money that doesn't get spent by the end of the year that winds up in the surplus. It may get spent, but at this point, at the point in time that the report is made, that's
portion of that money will get spent, and whatever's left over at the end, that unencumbered balance, is the money that now that's the expenditures that aren't made, because then you have a corresponding revenue side that right.
I'm just trying to look at this as like a point in time progress through the year.
Absolutely.
That's what the purpose of this report is, right?
Correct.
And that's how you did. Okay.
That's correct.
That's how I read it. I just wanted to verify that because I never heard that term used in that way.
No problem.
Thank you. That's all my questions.
Pat, I also have a question regarding the letter of corrective action, the inactive club aspect. If you could just let the board know that where it says the independent auditor has noted that funds remained for the class of 2017, the remaining funds will be disposed of as prescribed by the Board of Education policy.
Sure. So you have policy 5520, which dictates what happens to money from inactive clubs or money left over from graduating class. And if the graduating class hasn't already made a determination that that money is going to be donated in some fashion, whatever money remains gets turned over to the Student Senate.
To what did you say?
If they haven't, so if the class of 2017 didn't already make a determination on how they wanted any remaining money to be donated to perhaps another club or a charitable organization, whatever it be, if that money remains after that class graduates, the money then will go and get transferred to the Student Senate account per Board Policy 5520.
And just, I'm pretty sure that you asked the question always about the issue with.
Yeah, they dealt with that at the last meeting. We talked about that.
Yeah. So what is the actual issue that there seems to always be?
See, what's unique about the extra classroom activities, although it falls under the umbrella of the school district, it's not something that we actively manage. So you have 2 extra classroom activities treasurers, one in the middle school, one in the high school. They're the people that kind of interact with all the advisors and handle the money and the banking and the tracking of all of that. And it's, it's purposely at arm's length. It's supposed to teach the kids how to run a business and how to handle money and do fundraisers and account for profit and loss, that type of thing. Essentially, they're just holding on to the money too long before they're turning it over to the treasurers and being deposited. So we were going to set up a meeting we've been working with both of the central treasurers to try and rein in. And extra classroom activities is the I don't want to offend anybody, the redheaded stepchild of any business operation. Like when you go to any of these, any of the conferences, there's always discussions from auditors on extra classroom activities, just because it's so loosely controlled and run by the students with faculty advisors.
So you're saying just the process from the students to the treasurer itself?
Well, they need to speed that process up, and they need to understand that it's continuing to get mentioned in the audit report, and that it has to be a priority as an extra classroom advisor. They have to be cognizant if they have fundraising activities or anything that's going to collect cash, they're going to need to deposit that money in a timely fashion.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any further discussion? Cast your vote. Motion has been carried 5-0. Okay. Moving on to the vehicle fuel bid. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, accepts and awards the vehicle fuel bid RFB MSSD 1 through 2018 to Petroleum Traders for the period of January 1st, 2018 until December 31st, 2018 as presented. Can I get a motion to accept? Can I get a motion to accept and award the fuel bid? Sorry. Frank, second. Russell, any discussion? Cast your vote. Motion has been carried 5-0. Moving on to old and new business. Is there any old business that the board would like to address?
Yes, I have a question for Mr. Brooks. Last week we found out 2 teachers in the elementary school are going to retire in the middle of the year. Is the plan for this year to bring in, I'll call them temporary teachers to finish out the year and decide what we're doing for hiring later, or are you trying to hire them now?
Good question. They aren't leave replacements, those are probationary positions since the person is not coming back. So the process would move forward in trying to find a permanent replacement for that probationary position, and in those 2 particular situations, we're pretty confident that we're going to get there. So you talk about the 2 elementary positions.
Second, third grade, yeah.
Right. So I would anticipate in the January meetings, probably not the first, since that's literally 4 business days away. Well, really. It'll probably be at the second board meeting that we'll have a recommendation for you. At least that's the goal that the elementary school staff and district office staff has for completing that process. So we're pretty confident we're going to be able to find the right person for the right people for those two positions.
I bring that up because as I was looking at the enrollments, the enrollment data that was presented in the elementary school workshop, they are kind of low. Second grade is 21 child per each teacher, and third grade currently is 22 per teacher, and there's less than 20 in kindergarten. Is there any consideration of maybe not backfilling those teachers permanently and see where we are towards the end of the year and possibly?
Yeah, you really can't. The only time you can do a leave replacement is when you have someone on leave. So there's two types of positions, leave replacement or probationary positions. So these are not leave positions. So if we were unable to find someone of high quality, we could string that out with a substitute for a period of time. But it's a permanent fill. So if the board chose that they want to make adjustments on class sizes based on enrollments through the budget process, then that would either have to be dealt with through attrition at the end of the school year or layoffs.
Yeah, that looked like an opportunity where you wouldn't have to deal with it that way. That's why I was wondering if we had the opportunity of having a
I think that would be a discussion item, because I don't know that I'm in the same place that you are as far as an opportunity goes. I think we have very good class size arrangements right now in the K-2 world. Keeping it around that low 20 mark is a very good thing for our educational system. As you move up in the grade levels, in the intermediates, if you start getting into the mid-20s, it's not a bad thing. That's okay. And certainly staying in the mid-20 range in the middle and the high school is ideal. But really, if we can keep those primary grades in that ideally upper teens, but definitely lower 20s range, I think we're really doing a great thing there, especially since we don't have para support in each one of those early K-1 classrooms. So I think that's much bigger than the discussion about, I mean, we really are limited from a legal perspective as to the type of position. They're retiring, so it's a probationary position, so we have to fill it with a probationary.
And what defines that legality? Is that
state law? I mean,
state law defines
there's two types of positions. Well, three really: per diem substitute, long-term substitute, and probationary. So we would have a labor problem if we filled a probationary position with a leave position.
Or a long-term sub? Or that would be
No,
accepted?
we wouldn't be able to do that.
We couldn't do that,
Yeah,
right. Okay.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
If a person is out for a day because they're sick, you can fill it with a per diem substitute. If a person is out for a leave because of medical reasons, childbirth, something like that, you can fill it with a leave position. If there's no one else assigned to that position, it's a vacant probationary position.
I didn't realize
So
there was
certainly if we were at the end of the school year, that discussion would be much simpler to have, because it's normally natural at the end of the year, and certainly we'd look at that. There's always ways to reallocate staff, and there's a lot of time in the school year left that we don't know if there's more retirements, but we look at attrition for every single open position. We debate it, we have discussions, we have dialogue on it, especially when those coincide with the end of the school year. So reallocation of staff is an ongoing dialogue at all times. So.
Okay, well, the legality makes the answer
Where we are
easy.
right now,
Yeah.
right. But the
Right.
the longer piece of it really would be the debate about the educational purpose for class size.
Right,
So that certainly is something that is sometimes set in board policy, but we'd have to carefully walk through those waters. More of an administrative approach as far as what the board would be comfortable with. So.
Okay, well, that clarifies it. Is not really a decision to be made at this point, is really the answer, because of the way you explain it, so thank you.
Right. And it's different, it depends upon the position, too. These are classes that are set right now, so.
Right.
You know, there are other positions that are not as specifically oriented to the master schedule, so there may be a little more flexibility in whether we're going to fill those positions or not in any given moment in that way. So this, we need to run second and third grade on February 1st. So it's a little different than something else.
Right, and I'm not saying I'm convinced it needs to be a high ratio yet either, but to me, opportunity means you don't have to bring somebody in and then lay them off. If you decide to go that route, you could put some temporary situation in and deal with it later, because you don't even know what next year's enrollment looks like.
Correct.
Either, so.
Correct.
Yeah, that's what I meant. But you've answered the question thoroughly. Thank you.
Good. Thank you.
Any other old business?
Mike, do you want to bring up?
Yeah, Mr. Milazzo had brought up a presenter that came to the Ulster County School Boards Association, and the day before was with the superintendents. His name is Dr. Bill Daggett. He is a national presenter that works with the Model Schools Group and on a school improvement model. Really is an inspirational speaker, but he really comes with a tremendous wealth of knowledge. As a matter of fact, he was in charge of the state's testing system at the State Education Department for over a decade, a number of years back. So he was Mr. Regents for a period of time. And he did impress me quite a bit too. So Robin and I spent some time on the phone with him about a week or so ago and talked to him about leadership development and talked to him about how do we fulfill a vision. We have spent a lot of time as a Board of Education, certainly as an administrative team trying to establish goals and perspectives from the short-term and long-term perspective. What kind of supports can he provide us as an administrative team in fulfilling that? And it was a really good conversation, right, Robin? I mean, it was for us, just that little time with him was enticing. So we have him coming in and working with our administrative team, central and building, the whole team, in March. So he's going to come in and spend some of the day with us, spend, well, 3/4 of the day with us.
That's great.
On our staff development day.
That's great.
And see where we can use that as a springboard for ourselves and maybe continue on a coaching model with him and our team. So,
Great.
yeah. And he brings an international perspective to us, too. This is not just the New York State and not just the United States. It's an international perspective, which is...
And not just education.
And not just education.
He spends a good part of his time at other types of things to try and get an understanding of a holistic approach to what the world is that education needs to be preparing these children for.
Yeah. So, and he lives just upstate New York, so he's an easy grab for us. So it's good.
And the
Thank you. State's paying for a decent portion of his cost too. Even better. Thanks for asking.
Any new business? Other items? Okay, at this time, I would like to recognize district residents. Mr. Walters?
Just a point of clarification on the bid for the fuel. Before the school and the town shared the dispensing station, the town only had the capability of diesel and 1 grade of gasoline, yet you accepted 3 grades of gasoline. Does the new tank have the ability for all 3? Knowing that the price that you're showing is the price above the, I guess, Albany price per gallon, and are we buying the most expensive gas, or are we buying the least, or do we have ability to store 3 grades of gas?
The fuel tank is split into diesel and gas, so we are not. We're just buying regular unleaded. We just bid the other fuel so that if for any reason we wanted to buy the other.
Because the town used to do the same thing, and I used to say, which grade are you buying? And they always said, well, they're only buying the regular gas.
Right.
I said to them, why are you even bidding it?
Just gives you flexibility, excuse me, if for any reason.
But the tank only holds 1 grade of regular gas, right?
Right, it's 2 partitions, so we have one for diesel, one for gas.
I thought that's what it was.
Yeah, we kind of mirrored what they had done when they used to bid when we took over that process.
Anyone else? Okay, we do not have an executive session scheduled. So if I could get a motion to adjourn? Russell, second. Joanne? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry